Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in. And I am very happy today to be talking with Louise Edington. As you can see, Wisdom Weaver, and she has Cosmic Owl Astrology and also, and I want to plug this too, Political Astrology 2025, which
Mm.
is such a gift to astrologers out there because they take a look at the week before and what's going in current events and current people's astrology charts. So it is a gift for us astrologers out there. And the reason I'm talking to Louise today is she recently, or is in the process of publishing the book. I believe it's in August, the 11th or 12th that it comes out.
Oh, it's the 12th.
On the 12th, which
On
I
the
think
Venus-Jupiter conjunction.
I was going to say, isn't that a very prestigious day for some reason? And one of the, I am going to just give people a little bit of history because I went and figured it out, Louise, and we've known each other for like 3 years
I
now.
know. You should say who you are as well, though, because people are
Oh,
watching.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My name is Dawn. I'm Astrology and Tarot Alchemy and the Spiritual View. I'm with them as well. And the reason I'm very excited is having known her this long, and she is actually the reason that I use the astrology of goddesses. And I'm trying so hard not to use the word asteroid in anything because I know you'll call me on it. But the astrology of all of these beautiful goddesses and the nuances and gifts it brings into the charts and the readings. I never ever do readings without them, and she is the reason why, because she introduced me to them, and they're a big part of actually who I am as an astrologer. So I want to say this is not her first book. She has done the Complete Guide to Astrology and the Complete Guide to Tarot and Astrology. And which one of those was? I know there's one more. Modern Astrology.
Modern Astrology was first, then the Complete Guide to Astrology, then the Complete Guide to Tarot and Astrology. And I was paid to write those three. This one's self-published. So.
Well, and wasn't one of those at the top of the publishing list for that particular? Which one was that?
The Complete Guide to Astrology has been a #1 bestseller several times.
And well, and I do want to say, when I looked at, I actually went and downloaded onto my Kindle because they're having a sale with that particular one before your other one comes out. It's at $2.99 for people that have Kindles, because I always believe it's always helpful to have, whenever I'm going somewhere, to have that as a resource. And for $2.99, who can so you have something to read of hers before this other book comes out. And I think we will also be putting, for people who would like signed copies, which I am getting, of her book, which is Ceres in Astrology, Nourishment, Power, and the Rebirth of the Feminine. So yay, thank you. Thank you for holding that up. So I am so excited. I actually have already read the book. There's a number of us who were privileged to do that. And I think the first thing I said to you after I contacted you back was like, when are you going to have the class using this information? I have used Ceres before in interpretations and used her in a class when I was working with other goddesses. But this just adds so much more information into the interpretation of her, some of the history of her. So let's start talking about that a little bit. I think, Lou, I want to start with how you came up with the idea that you wanted to write this book.
Oh, I've been writing it for quite a long time. I actually cannot remember when I started. I did a couple of presentations for astrology organizations about 5 years ago. And the book started to develop from that. But it clearly wasn't ready at the time, because I'm a great believer in really tuning into the essence of a planetary body and getting to know it really well. That's how I work, and even in my beginners astrology course that's just on a download, I suggest ways people can do that. And so I just feel I needed to experience and work with and understand Ceres at a deeper level before I could actually convey the essence of her. So probably about 5 years it's been in the writing.
And now we have all of these astrological significators. I know that you had talked about when Pluto and Venus and Ceres all met in 2024 at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So such a brand new age for everyone to be looking at that. And one of the things I will say about the book, and I hope people really realize the joy of this, is that it talks about her in the houses. It talks about her in the signs because she
Mhm.
takes, what is it, 5 3/4 years to go around in orbit?
It's a bit less than that. She's just inside the asteroid belt, so it's all the asteroids take about 4.5 years ish. So it depends how far out they are. So yeah, I can't remember the
Oh,
exact orbit. I put it in the book.
so I want you to go into the Pluto and Ceres dwarf planet asteroid thing. Can you give this a little bit
Mm.
more information? I know it's in the book, but I find it very important to realize
Well,
that.
she was discovered January 1st, 1801, and she was the first planetary body after Uranus to be discovered. Until Uranus was discovered in 1781, the extent of this culture, at least, astrological universe was Saturn. That was the boundary of what we knew. And then, of course, telescopes were invented and so on. And 1781, Uranus was discovered, and he is like the pattern breaker, right? But then she was the next one to be discovered, and she was called a planet initially. But then the astronomers discovered all these other beings in the asteroid belt, and they created a new designation, asteroid. And so Ceres went from planet down to asteroid for many, many years. And most people um, got to know Ceres first through Demetra George's amazing book Asteroid Goddesses, and it's still an amazing book. Just say planet series. But anyway, but but then in 2006, after we after the discovery of Neptune, Pluto, all these other things, Eris was discovered, and she is a bit of a table turner. And so Eris is a dwarf planet too, or named as such now. The 2006 was when that classification was invented by the astronomers, and that's when Pluto was called. I hate saying demoted because he's still Pluto is Pluto still, right?
Yeah.
So Pluto was renamed, let's say, or reclassified as a dwarf planet, and Ceres was reclassified as a dwarf planet. And now we've got this whole category of dwarf planets. And Ceres should have been something like that all along because she is not like any of the other asteroids. She's round, she contains water, I didn't even include all the astronomical points in the book because it's just very technical. But a lot of her topography is more Earth-like, or if you like, and planet-like, and just being round and the fact she contains water is completely different because asteroids are rocks basically. And she also does fit. There was, I know I'm going to mess up the name, but the Bode's Law, just call it Bode's Law. And there was a guy called Bode who created this calculation for where all the planets were, how far apart they were. And Ceres fits it. But Bode's Law was cast aside because everybody said there was no planet in this spot where Ceres is. And, well, there is. So anyway, there's all the technicals for you. So, and she is just inside the asteroid belt. So I maintain that she's actually a personal planet. So the personal planets are all inside, and it's transpersonal once you go outside the asteroid belt and beyond. So we've got the Sun, the Moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury, and Ceres. She balances it all out nicely.
That's right. And I kind of laughed when I was reading some of the history of it. So I'm thinking, because I think for about 20 years she was called a planet. And then with the discovery with all the other goddesses, I felt like, well, did the guys all get around and say we have too many women showing up as planets? Wouldn't
Well, it's
surprise me.
isn't it kind of typical that they would, demote her to
I know. And
oh, just an asteroid. Yeah.
well, and long before Pluto was discovered, I'm like, by the way, Pluto was not discovered when she was discovered. So, and that's just an interesting fact in the whole
Mhm,
thing. And a friend of mine had noted that because of the whole story of Ceres and Pluto and Persephone, or
mhm,
or so Ceres, Demeter, right?
yeah,
And so they are equals, basically,
mhm,
though. Right
they
now,
are,
they've been equal since what, 2006. So
yes.
I find that very fascinating because Pluto packs a punch. And I
Mhm,
think at this point, I want to make sure that. So we've talked about the some of the technicalities of what she, her discovery and things like that. But the
mm,
the the juice to what she is for me is this nurturing. And in your book, you point out it's how you nurture, how you were nurtured,
mhm,
and the other aspects of her, of that very earth based tone that it brings in.
mhm,
So if you could bring that in a little bit more, because I found that I
mm.
used that as when I was interpreting her in other people's charts. So
Yeah. I mean, she's generally referred to as the Great Mother, and she is, a lot of the myth of the story, of course, if you look at it as a person-based myth, which we tend to do because that's what we humans do, is, she was the mother, Persephone was the daughter who was kidnapped and taken into the underworld, because she's Demeter in the Greek things. But if you also look at it, in terms of the larger picture about how we nurture and are nurtured and what feeds us, she's also goddess of the grain and the harvest. When she was grieving, she actually caused, in the myth, she was said to have caused a famine on the earth. But it's also parts of us. I think we take these myths too literally, right? So, there's all kinds of imagery comes through. Well, all of this pairing really. There's the maiden mother crone kind of aspect. Venus, I see as Persephone. Mother,
mhm.
Ceres, crone, Pluto. Why are we saying Pluto is a male the whole time when Pluto is very much about deep transformative processes, which are very yin in nature? We get too tied up with that's male, that's a he, that's a she. Anyway, rant. But so I've gone a bit lost. Yes, so she's associated with all kinds of so much to my mind. I tried to cover as much as possible in the book, but there's attachment theory, but that's attachment to people, places, and things. Not just your mother. And
Mhm.
it's also what feeds you in every way, mind, body, and spirit, to put it a different way from nurturing. So, she is just one powerful um, planetary being. And even I'm calling her a she, but she's, but, she is, to my mind, she's also very much about climate change. And she was discovered 1801, right in the middle of the Industrial Revolution. And I'm not suggesting we go back to having no machinery at all by any means, but we can see that, what the Industrial Revolution has sped up the raping of the earth and what we do to the earth. And it's caused, over farming, which leaves earth barren and all kinds of things like that. Their series themes too. So she's come back into prominence, I think, since 2006 to alert us to this, you could say.
Well, and especially during the time that we have AI becoming so prominent. So we're going through another kind of industrial revolution
Mhm,
where a lot of things are going to be changing, and hopefully for the better.
yeah.
And I do want to say something about the interpretation, because I think as people get to know her more, that the interpretation of her, just like we interpret with the other planets,
Mm,
they have their negative and positive sides.
mhm,
And I will give you two examples. They were both intimate examples for me. I have Ceres in the house of Cancer with you and I have similar placements, but I have
Mm,
it with my son is in Cancer and Vesta's in Cancer.
mm,
Ceres is kind of in the middle, and what's the other one? I have Mercury there, and there's another Vesta, Mercury,
mhm,
and anyway, that's enough. That's enough there.
mhm,
So as a mother, helicopter mom, admitted
mhm.
cancer helicopter mom right here. And one of the interesting things is my youngest son has Ceres in the 10th house conjunct to the same degree Saturn.
Ooh,
So he had a very controlling mom. I know. I had to call him up and say,
I'm sorry.
I did. I actually apologized, and I'm like, "Can I use your chart as an example because it's a really good one?" And what I want to say with that interpretation is, as especially for the first few years of his life, because that was the initial series, and then
Mm,
as she kept rotating through with time, that changed, and now I'm very, very supportive of his career. And he's like I mean, he's
mm,
exactly controlling mom. Everybody knew it. 10th house. Hello, and but also right now, it's just like with his career, I'm super supportive of his career. It's like he's an
mhm.
adult, hands off, right? But
Yeah.
that worked out so perfectly in the interpretation of both
Mhm,
my chart and his chart that I found it very astounding and eye-opening for me that there's, once you learn a little bit more about the archetype and, people can call her maybe that she was an overbearing mom, that she didn't let Persephone have any breath or room or whatever. That's one of the things that can be interpreted as
mhm.
versus a mom that will go through hell to save her child.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. All these layers, so many layers. That is a brilliant example, by the way. So yeah, you should. But yeah, it does change as you grow as well. And I think it can also apply to both parents, though, the nurturing principle of the family. So having that series conjunct Saturn could indicate quite a distant father figure too. My series is conjunct Saturn, and my father worked away a lot and was, with child rearing was my mum's job, So I mean, very much of its time, I guess, as well. But
Yeah. Yeah, and being the 10th house, yeah, that makes total sense because Saturn can represent that father
Mhm,
energy, which is
mhm,
why astrology always so fascinating with
mhm,
things. But I really recommend this book because I feel
mhm,
that you've opened up that door to
mhm,
her as a as a personal planet.
mhm,
And being that the boundary is that Saturn energy, I
mhm.
think that we can go more and more into that when I realized that, where she was placed in my chart and how seriously I take being a mom,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah.
my second house, right? So it's like super important to me.
Mhm.
Oh, Vesta and Juno, that's the other one I was thinking of. So I have like it's a crowded house with the
Yes.
ladies, right? But really you look at these different things and then you see how it talks to the other personal planets as well. I mean, that's super. I mean, if you have a Venus square to Ceres, what would you think? Oh, okay, well, we have some mother daughter issues, maybe something like that.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
At some point anyway. But,
right.
it can be, a challenge, and, I think you could actually just take those, placements, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, and Ceres, and just do a personal planet reading for a client, and really kind of that's the kind of main personal parts of ourself, and see how
Mhm.
they all talk to each other. Take out some of the extras for a while. Yeah, I mean, Dawn, you and I love our extras anyway, but there's many ways you could work with her. But if you're doing personal, what I would call soul or psychological astrology, if you're working with a client on that level, then yes, she's very much about how you were nurtured, how you want to be nurtured, and how you then nurture. Because interestingly, I kind of went to the opposite point. I tell the story in the book that I was born with Saturn at 2 Capricorn, sandwiched between Saturn in Capricorn and my very late degree Sagittarius rising, and I was the second mother because my mum was so young when she gave birth. I was given this responsibility from a very early age to babysit for my brothers while mum and dad went out and things. I went completely to Cancer, to be honest, with my kids, because I was like, I'm not doing that. But I was an
Well,
older mum as well, which is also very Capricorny. So, yeah.
well, and it's interesting if you go to your children's charts and look up where Ceres is in their charts. Because when I found out, it was like, when you see that it's exactly conjunct Saturn, I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. But
Mhm.
he just laughed when I told him about it and was explaining it, and I'm like, and I'm apologizing for any passive aggressive behaviors I've demonstrated to you. So he thought it was very, very funny. But yeah, I own it. I'm a Cancer mom. I mean, what else can you say with all that loaded up into Cancer?
Yeah.
So but I really feel it's important because so many people now are, and I think this will tie into series interpretation. They're
Mm,
breaking those ancestral traumas, and because the parents are so much a part of that trauma issues, I think that we can interpret her in that chart in very interesting ways to help our
mm.
clients. I
I think
believe.
so. Yeah, and about breaking some of the ingrained patterns
Hmm.
that we get attached to speak of attachment theory, which is all, very much to do with Ceres. So we're not just attached to people, as I said earlier, we get attached to these patterns subconsciously or just because it works or we think it works. And then I think her discovery being right after Uranus um, is a big flag that she is here to kind of break a lot of these patterns if we start using her in the charts. So, mhm,
And I think she has kind of led the way for some of these other outer
mhm,
goddesses to come through. Um,
mhm.
and I think she's assisting. I think her and Hecate, and to bring in some of
Oh,
the others, are assisting, like Senna and
mhm.
um, Haumea as well. And they're all holding space for each other because that's one of the things I find fascinating in the astrology right now is that I tell you these goddesses are, helping each other out, and I feel like they're all like pushing Ceres forward as this is an
Mhm,
important thing to really look at, as well as we're going to see feminine energy because Pluto is going, they're equals now. So they're going,
mhm.
Pluto is going through Aquarius.
Yeah.
Set You have Ceres is right now. Is she
She's
in
there.
Scorpio?
She's in Aries. She's
Aries right
actually
now.
she's actually going to be square the lovely Venus Jupiter conjunction on publication day.
Wow. So what degree do you know the degrees she'll be on that day, or is there the exact degree? Is
16,
that like
16.
14? 16?
The
Oh yeah.
Venus and Jupiter at 14. She'll be at 16. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
Mhm,
and world access stuff,
mhm,
is all part of that. So
mhm,
I really think that for me, this book and reading this book,
mhm,
I feel it's going to bring in a bigger opportunity. And as you mentioned, Demetra George, her book, excellent. And of course, Melanie Reinhardt has written about different goddesses.
mhm.
Um, and other asteroids actually, but I feel this is actually going to be one of those considered books for
Oh, thank you.
resources. Oh, I do. I
Yeah,
absolutely do. And
yeah.
I also will say, and I hope you have this close to hand because I'm going to ask you about this. I know that you had Steve Judd wanted to read the book, and he read the book, and he asked if she had
Mhm,
a forward for it, and
mhm.
volunteered to write it. And let me tell you, Steve Judd would never, ever do that unless
No.
he thoroughly believed in what he had read and really stamped it with his approval. So do you
And
happen to have
he
that close
he
by?
called he called me on WhatsApp to read it to me, and I cried. So, what do you want me to read? The foreword or some of it at
I
least?
do. I do want you
Mhm.
to read the forward because I respect him. I've attended some of it. I've attended his shifts happening, and I respect him. And you cannot make him do something he doesn't want to do. And for him just to like be full forward press with
Yeah,
I want to write the forward for this book, I think is it says a lot. So I would
I
love to
know.
have you read it because it's
Okay. He said, it's becoming increasingly evident that when celestial bodies are discovered and named, their archetypes begin to emerge in the collective consciousness. Uranus was discovered amidst the French and American revolutions, times of radical change and upheaval. Neptune entered our awareness during the dawn of commercial brewing, the first drug wars, and the invention of celluloid, each linked to illusion, escapism, and altered perception. Pluto's emergence, 1930, by the way, Pluto, way after Ceres, coincided with the splitting of the atom and the rise of modern psychology, both profound gateways into the unseen and the transformative. Chiron was identified just as holistic and complementary therapies began to gain traction, marking a return to integrative healing. Although Ceres was first observed over 225 years ago, it's only in more recent decades that her archetypal presence has begun to take root in astrology and popular culture. Since the publication of the first Ceres Ephemeris, themes of mothering and smothering, protection and rejection, and the deep complexity of feminine influence have come to the forefront. More importantly, Ceres has reintroduced the essential question of nurturing, how we were or were not nurtured, how we nurture others, how we allow others to nurture us, and crucially, how we nurture ourselves. This includes not only emotional care, but also physical sustenance, diet, nutrition, digestion. These concepts, once relegated to the margins, are now central to how we understand wholeness, both in astrology and in life. He says, I have incorporated Ceres into natal chart work for over 20 years and have often felt like a lone voice, but increasingly others have begun to speak out, challenging inherited notions of family, gender roles, and emotional responsibility. Louise Edington is among the most fearless of those voices. With a tone that is both grounded and revolutionary, she pushes the boundaries of astrological discourse. She is almost, but not quite, a cyberpunk priestess of the stars, bold, insightful, and unapologetically feminist. If her work unsettles the old patriarchs of astrology, so be it. We need unsettling. In this era of rapid evolution and awakening, astrology is regaining its rightful place in the cultural conversation, and Louise Edington stands at the vanguard of this transformation. Ceres in astrology will come to be recognized as both a definitive guide and a deeply personal meditation on the archetype of nurturing. It is timely, powerful, and much needed contribution to modern astrology. Louise, you rock. Can you imagine having that read to you?
Oh my, by him. Yeah, I'm so excited for this. Again, I'm so excited for this book to come out. Now, have they got it so that you can pre-order it on Amazon? Is there a link for that?
The hardcover and the Kindle are available for pre-order on Amazon now. The paperback will be very shortly. Sacredthreadsimprint.com is my self-publishing website. Signed copies can be ordered from there. I just put 40 in the mail. I've got stacks more. I've got so many.
Well, and I think, isn't there a separate, so can we put that, hopefully we can put that link down below too, where they can get a signed copy? Because I'm getting the
Yeah,
signed copy. I'm getting
yeah,
the signed copy. But
yeah.
one of the things, as I think about her being in the same sign as Chiron, and
Mhm.
coming up to that, Chiron, I believe in just a couple days goes retrograde, I believe. Yeah.
It goes retrograde on the 30th. Yeah, we're doing this on the 28th. Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
right. So I feel like what we have coming is she's going to be headed for Taurus, where she's extremely strong. And I think that she's going to be helping with the whole food issues and the food quality.
Mhm.
I feel that's what's coming when you look at her with the
Mhm.
collective energies, because we also look at what we call the personal planets in the collective energy. And for
Mhm.
me, she is really coming in and going, okay, now we're going to really look at these food issues and take care of proper food and being
Mhm.
grown properly and taking care of the earth so we get our nutrients back into the earth as we should.
Mhm.
Um, I can
Can
see
I
that
tell
coming.
you? Can I tell you one astounding thing I've just noticed? Couldn't include everything in the book, right?
Right.
Ceres will be in Taurus, you're right. But Ceres, as I state in the book, was discovered at 23 degrees, 23 minutes of Taurus. Exactly to the minute conjunct fixed star Algol, by the way, which to me emphasizes that she's a strong kind of feminist energy. But next year, she and Chiron first meet exactly at 23:56 Aries. So there's that 23 again. So
Wow.
yeah,
And
she's very associated with the number 23. I talk about that in the book.
yes.
It's the most human number because we have 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 ears and a nose, 23. 23 pairs of chromosomes. Takes 23 seconds for blood to go around the body, 23 days in the biorhythm cycle. I could go on. Yeah. Anyway,
Right.
sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Because I really think that's part of bringing her forward.
Mhm.
I feel with her also when she's going to meet Algol again,
Mm.
and how long does it take her to go? How I'm not exactly sure. How long does it usually take her to go through a sign? Because it's got to be a couple months.
Well, she goes retrograde for ages. So you divide 4.5-ish, but she's going to be in Aries for absolutely ages because she's going to go retrograde. So she's going to be, I'm just going to see when she goes into Taurus. She won't go into Taurus till March the 15th next year, 2026.
which
Mhm.
is which is a pretty heavy time with everything going on.
Mhm.
It's and her go isn't that what you consider her one of her co-ruler, that she's kind of like a co-ruler of Taurus? Very
Yeah,
much
yeah.
in
I mean, you know me, I don't love the word rulership, but I think she's probably most associated with Taurus by a shade, but Virgo as well. She's very Virgo, and that really the Virgo aspect of her really fits with Mercury because those two were paired up in the Roman pantheon of gods and goddesses, the Dei Consentis, Mercury and Ceres. And Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, and Ceres, before the asteroid belt, is the furthest planet from the sun. And so they're kind of on the boundaries, and they're both boundary crossers in many ways. So anyway, and Mercury is known as, or Virgo is known as one of Mercury's signs. So maybe Mercury and Ceres share it. I don't know. And Venus and Ceres maybe share Taurus.
Well, and I feel like there's a lot of the goddesses that are going to be very much moving. I mean, we could talk about hundreds of different subjects regarding astrology.
Oh,
One of the things I had noted, and we had discussed in your class, I belong to her Nest community, and one
mhm,
of the things we had talked about in there was Sedna, and
mm,
Sedna is as close as it gets, and will she comes the closest when she is in Cancer. Hello,
mhm.
the deep Inuit goddess of the ocean.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, you can't make this up. You cannot make this kind of energy up. And I feel that with Ceres coming more and more forward and being more recognized as a planet, and
Mm,
really she has been officially recognized as a planet. So I keep having
mhm.
to say that myself. It's like I can't keep saying asteroid goddesses, asteroid goddesses. I have to say goddesses. Quit, stop the asteroid part and just go with the goddesses, because I feel we are
Mhm.
going to be able to know more about her interpretation as we utilize her more, just like they didn't know how to use Uranus at first or
Yeah,
how to use
yeah.
Pluto at first.
But isn't it kind of funny how Pluto and, well, all of those, the more the ones named after male gods, shall we say, have become accepted by astrologers. You know, even some of the most traditional astrologers use Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, but they're resistant to using some of these other ones. And I know you can't use all of the newly discovered bodies in a natal chart, but
Right.
when you're looking at the bigger picture of where we're going as humanity, I think you can. I think you can bring in a lot more.
Well,
Mhm.
and one of the things I find interesting, Chiron has been very accepted. Of course, he's a
Mm.
male centaur. Um,
His
but
wife. Cariclo sits there very
Ah,
quietly,
yeah,
patient and waiting.
here I am doing
Mhm.
nothing, twiddling my thumbs. No, because one of the things I want to point out too is I never ever read a chart without having um, additional
Me neither.
goddesses in it,
Me
and
neither.
and
I don't always talk about everyone. You
no,
can't. I
no,
talk about them as they speak to me, or if they're being transited, or, if they're having, like, the Cariclo return is at 63, which is Chiron's wife. Yeah.
right,
So
and and to me, there's certain ones that I always include, right? There's
mm,
Juno
mm,
and Vesta, and of course Ceres, and I always include now Hecate
me too.
always, and Chariclo always, because
Mhm.
they even if they when I look at someone's chart, I look at what how that because they're not all gonna be prominents, but some of them speak very, very loudly, and Ceres
Mm,
in mine is, like, in that 2nd house, it's important.
yeah.
So, when you look at sometimes you'll see when it's transiting or it's maybe going over one of your other personal planets, and there's a discussion there, like, maybe when Ceres and Mercury meet in Cancer, maybe you have a good conversation with your mother, right?
Yeah.
It could be when you start to really broaden your mind and broaden your horizons, you can bring in all different kinds of interpretations, and you will find when you start asking the
Mm.
client these kind of things, have you had a recent, if especially if I don't usually bring it up unless I see there's a prominent thing going on with
Yeah,
it.
me neither, me neither. Well, you just can't, so, and it depends on what their questions are as well, I think, with
Right,
the yeah.
right.
But, even for astrologers, because this book is definitely, I think it's an easy read,
Mhm,
personally. I
mhm.
think it's aimed not just at astrologers like a textbook, it's aimed at people getting to understand the essence of her. But anyway, where was I going? Oh, yeah. Um, so if you're an astrologer, I think you will find that you will often discover how to use some of these extras, so to speak, when they're activated in your chart. That's always happened to me anyway. I started using Juno when something was transiting over, and I discovered she was exactly conjunct my Mercury, and things like that. Yeah. Mhm.
And and I know that, I initially had um, met you when you were doing the Venus retrograde class, which was, like,
Mm.
in July of 2022 that you started that class, and that's when I first met you, and then it's kind of funny because it ties into that story of Ceres because that's
Oh, it
that whole
does.
underneath, so it's like, "Oh, well, we've come full circle." I mean, I think with all of that
Oh,
energy with,
I mean,
um
there's even extra things I could have written this book 5 times as long, but maybe I'll tell more stories as time goes by. But do you know that in the myths, Demeter was I think this was in one of Demetra George's books, actually, not the Asteroid Goddesses, another one about the moon. But anyway,
Mhm,
she retold the myth of Demeter, Persephone, and Hades, and the story that she told, or the retelling, said that Demeter wandered the earth, creating this famine for 9 days, which is about the time that Venus is invisible when she's retrograde because she's blinded by the sun's light. So most of these myths are based on these astrology cycles, by the way.
well, I do remember I was at her lecture I was at a lecture of hers, and she did refer to that story, she says, especially where if you're located in the certain area of Greece
Yes, yeah,
that
but
she's
that's
talking
which is
about.
where they were written. Yeah, because if you're
Exactly.
far north or south, it's less, and sometimes never invisible. But yeah, it was written from their perspective. So mhm.
Well, and I did find because I'm an astrologer, I did find that I like the fact that it's very readable and that
Mhm.
someone that doesn't have, a really strong background in astrology, I don't feel like you need it, but it gives such a good interpretation of her that you can look at your chart and kind of get a better idea of how she might be showing up.
Mhm.
But for me, I remember telling you, "Oh my god, I wanna teach a class using this information,"
Mhm.
because I felt it was, the information that I got from it was very, direct
Mm.
and on point, because
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people have really looked at her thoroughly. I mean, not, and probably that's true of a lot of the other ones, but they each need their time and their recognition. And I feel like this book for her really stands out as
Yeah.
something that's probably going to be almost a textbook usage in the future. I really,
I think I probably will create a class from it. And the moment I'm running 2 mentorship groups. We've got another Oprah retreat coming up, the Organization of Professional Astrology. By the way, check that out if anybody's interested, in October. I'm running a peer group, and it's just sometimes you just can't do it all. But I always think these things happen in right timing for me. But I think I'm definitely going to create a class, and it might become a workshop as well that I could teach for in different places or something too. So,
and
mhm.
hopefully be presenting at different conferences if I can talk you into that,
Mhm.
being a presenter. She hesitates about doing that. She writes beautifully, but she hesitates about getting up in front of people and doing
I do
doing
not like standing up in front of a group of people live. No. and and to be honest, I don't like big conferences either. So I'll do it virtually. I've applied to
oh,
speak for Open next year again. So on the videos. So there you
nice. Well, I think we will wrap this up.
go. Mhm.
I really wanted to focus on this book coming out, and
Mm,
I feel it's very valuable. Please um, take a look at the information, and also she has other books out there. She has
mm,
other things going on. So I do again want to say she has her own Cosmic Owl Astrology that she does. Put out on YouTube, and Political Astrology 2025 with Kathy Beale. She also
mhm,
has a Substack she puts out every day with
mhm,
what the transits are, which are very valuable to the
mm.
newly fledgling astrologers who help keep track of what's going on in their own charts. So thank you so much, Louise. I have
Thank
enjoyed this
you.
tremendously.
And
Yay.
I'm
And
sorry I couldn't answer comments, everybody. I will go around the various places. It's live streaming and answer comments. But I would like to say it's sacredthreadsimprint.com is where you can order a signed copy if you want one. So,
perfect. Perfect. Thank you,
yeah.
everyone. And we will let you go for the rest of the day. But such a pleasure, and look
Thank
forward
you.
to more books coming out from you. I think there's a
Oh,
possibility
yes.
of that. So
Oh,
very
there's
much
at
look.
least 2 more. I actually bought 100 ISBNs because you have to buy an ISBN for each edition. So I had to get one for the Kindle, one for the hardback, one for the paperback, and the Audible because I'm going to record my own audio. But then I'm like, oh, I may as well buy 100 because I know I'm going to write all these other books. So
Oh well, I'll just order 100. Why order five?
well,
I, I'll,
it was 10 or 100, so I thought I may as well do the 100.
all right. Thank you,
Thank you,
Louise.
Dawn. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.